Hey guys, Donal here with a collection of dairy-rich recipes for Christmas, thanks to the EU-funded Milk It's Good to Know It's Good campaign and the National Dairy Council. This is my leftover ham and cheese Christmas tart. Now this one is absolutely gorgeous, and best of all, it uses some leftover ham from your Christmas spread and whatever cheese you have to hand. I've got a gorgeous selection of Irish cheese here, but we're going to start off with the pastry first. So into a bowl with some flour. To this, we're going to make this really rich and flavorful with plenty of cold butter. Now, I will say, when you're making this recipe, you want to make sure that your butter is cold so you can rub it into the flour alongside a little bit of salt. Now, the key to really good pastry around this time of year is cold fingers and really cold butter. You want to rub the flour into the butter just until the point that you have sort of small knobbly bits. And it's those little knobbly bits that will melt down in the cooking of this pastry and leave you with really fine, beautiful pastry. Now, the way to know that this mix is done is that it sort of looks like wet sand, but you still want a few little knobbly bits in there. So don't try and make it too fine. Once you have it at this stage, make a little well in the center. We're going to pour in some water, bunch it up, and get it into the fridge. So I've added the water now, and it's just a case of turning it out, pressing it into a nice dough, trying not to overwork it at this point, but also bringing it into a nice even ball that we can stick in the fridge to rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now, while this rests in the fridge, let's caramelize some onions. As soon as the onions hit the pan, get in with a little bit of salt, and this will help to release any of the moisture in the onions, and it'll just bring this caramelization process into fruition. So give it a good stir, and now that it's starting to cook away, turn down the heat, and it's all about low and slow. Pastry is nice and chilled, it's time to get it rolled out. So rolling pin, floured surface, and into our tart tin. Pop it in. Now, even if it's not perfect, we're going to start to press this in, leaving an overhang. We're going to bake it with the excess pastry and then trim it afterwards. So using a fork, I'm just going to pierce little holes into the base here. And the idea is that we're going to cook this off in the oven with some baking beans to ensure that it doesn't rise while it cooks. We then are going to take it out of the oven. We're going to get rid of the baking beans and pop it back in to cook completely. Now that the tart is cooking in the oven, let's talk about the filling. It's rich, it's luscious, and it's creamy, and it starts off with 3 eggs. Time to add some cream. Season it up with some salt and pepper, some thyme leaves, and then give it a good whisk. Now, my pastry case has come out of the oven. It's completely cooked at this point. I've also trimmed it so it looks nice and pretty, and now it's ready for assembly. Little bits of that caramelized onion across the base are going to be the starting blocks of this wonderful tart. So pop them in, spread that onion across the base of the pastry case, leaving little pockets that we're going to fill in with the ham and the cheese. And now that the ham's in, time for our cheddar. I've got a lovely selection of white and red cheddar and a beautiful Irish smoked cheddar too. Nice big crumbly pieces all the way in and around this tart. Now I'm using a trio of beautiful cheddar here, but this is the type of recipe that around Christmas time, if you have leftover cheese, use whatever you fancy. It's very forgiving. And now, time for the filling. Take your time with this, pour it over, and just use a little fork to nuzzle some of that liquid in and around the caramelized onions, the cheese, and the ham. Just look at that. It already looks delicious. Now, finishing touches, a little bit of thyme leaf over the top. This is now going to go into the oven at 180 degrees Celsius, and it's going to cook for about 30 to 35 minutes until it's puffed up, golden, and it's completely set. When it comes out of the oven, let it cool completely and then serve. Let's go. Now just have a look at this. How pretty does that look? Gorgeous little textures of cheese and ham and that caramelized red onion. Now don't forget, you can use whatever cheese you fancy, but at this point, once it's cooled completely, serve it up with a side salad around Christmas. It's the perfect respite from all the ham and cheese action. It feels different and it's got a lovely, luscious interior. Have a look at this. Creamy and absolutely gorgeous. Serve it up on a plate with a little side salad. And that for me is an absolutely gorgeous little homage to all those wonderful things that happen around Christmas, but in a lighter bite that just feels a little bit more luxurious. Let's give it a bite. That cheese is just oozing in amongst the caramelized red onions of the ham. Definitely make this little tart this Christmas. Enjoy!